Welcome everyone to Legion Gaming. I'm your host Donnie, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Deuce.
Hello, everyone.
Deuce, how are you today?
I am good. I am ready to record again. It feels like it hasn't been too much time since the last one. But
Yeah, I'm kind of losing track of time because we had some sort of, changes in our schedule of sorts that we had to accommodate in one way or another, and we've kind of figured out things on the fly, which has worked out. But I think today's going to be a really fun episode. We have an episode where we're calling out games that are really great, whether they're critically acclaimed, or like they have great reviews, but for some reason just didn't click with us. So it's not necessarily they're bad games, but I think this will be a fun episode because you and I have pretty varied tastes, I would say, in general. So for me, when there's a game that doesn't click, I'm like, this really sucks because I recognize everything about this game, why it's great, but there's something missing that just doesn't get its hooks into me.
And then I'm over here like, wow, I just spent 45 hours on this.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You're like, oh man, I just finished this one, and I'm like, I haven't gotten past the first mission.
So I think it's fun because it's like it's one thing to we're going to be trashing here, right? But it's just really being critical. We're being critical of why we not like these games. But it's fun when you trash bad games, but it's harder when there's a game that like you're just dying to enjoy and you're just like, I just can't get into it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I wanted to make the distinction in my own head because we've got another episode coming up we're planning on of like disappointments. They had a big hype train and maybe they themselves weren't good and we hated them because of it. But in this one, they're all going to be really good games. It's just, like you said, for whatever reason, we don't care for them. It's not even that we hate them or anything. It's just like, meh.
Yeah, like you play it and you're just totally indifferent to it, which it sucks. Like, a lot of people feel that way too, but I think it'll be interesting because there's a lot of big games on here that I think may be controversial for some people. I don't know if anyone who listens to us will be upset, but I think it's a bit of a different discussion because you always hear praise for certain games and it'll be different to see a more critical eye as we'll put it on there too. But before we get to all that good stuff, Ducey, what have you been playing lately?
God, I was trying to think of that on my way here and I was surprised myself. I was like, oh, nothing but racing. Ever since our racing episode, I just spent like a full week or week and a half on F1 25, getting further into that season, almost caught up to like where they are in real life. And also, I just texted you the other night that I found an entire new menu system that I did not realize was in the game until like I'm already into, I want to say, race 5 or 6 of the season. And I just gained as an owner point or skill point or something like that. And so they said, okay, go to these trees. They're like RPG trees for my owner. And I picked on one. And then it said, okay, now go to your activities list and schedule the training. And I'm like, the what? So I like scrolled over and there's this whole calendar where in between race weekends, you can schedule activities for your shop to do. Like your owner can spend 2 or 3 days at this training seminar. You can give your title sponsors a tour of your facility for 2 or 3 days. And sometimes you can have like a field trip of school children come and visit or something like that. And you can host merch days and merch sales. And I was like, where was this? They didn't tell me about this at all in the opening, like, training intro. It just happened, and I was like, this was definitely not in the older games.
I've dealt with that with the games before, too, where it's something that I sort of organically discover and realize that I haven't been paying attention to for most of the game. And I'm like, why? Like, did I miss a tutorial box? Because usually I can be annoyed by tutorials when they're just over excessive and they're just too much and too long.
Yeah.
But it sucks when it feels like that they didn't tell you about a certain thing specifically, right? Like there's a bunch of tutorials for everything else.
Yeah, how to jump.
Yeah, exactly, right? But then there's certain menus and mechanics where like, why wasn't I told about this 10 hours ago?
Yeah. I would have been like probably scheduling more things because you get little bonuses, bonus money or bonus skill points and stuff like that. I would have been doing this from week 1 of the season.
Yeah, that makes sense though, because that's the thing. It's at least you can catch up. But yeah, it's just weird when you hit that. You're like, why?
Yeah,
where was this? It's a whole different menu.
It wasn't like it was locked. I could understand also if like something is teaching you something new because it was locked previously. No, that was available. Mm-hmm. The other thing I finally got into, I say finally like I was really waiting, but I did not expect I was going to get this. I got a Switch 2 and Mario Kart World.
Yeah, that worked out because I had pre-ordered a Switch 2 from Target.com, and their thing was like, it might get here Tuesday or Wednesday, or where the hell it was. And I had read that the Switch 2s were in stock at Target, and I lived like 3 minutes from mine. So it was like, it was like right before work. So like, I'll go check it out. And there was like 5 in stock. I was like, well, I guess just buy one now. Yeah. And I tried to cancel mine, and then it wouldn't let me. And then you're like, well, I'll just buy it off you because I was just going to return it when it came in. So it worked out for both of us that I technically had 2 Switch 2s for about a day and a half.
Yep. It was nice. It was very convenient. And now I love Mario Kart World. We've been spending almost every night playing that online.
Yeah, it's definitely top tier. I really love it. I do have some nitpicks like usual.
Oh yeah,
like, there's some annoyances where it's like, it sucks that you can't invite people into a public lobby, which is just baffling at this point in 2025. A little bit more excusable with Switch 1.
That's like more of a Nintendo thing than just a Mario Kart
thing. It is, yeah. But I'm saying like with your flagship game at launch, because they have nothing else to launch with, right? Like they have a few other games. There's zero reason why I can't and I shouldn't be able to invite you or buddies in a public lobby with other people. It's just stupid at this point.
Yep. Yeah. The actual racing itself, it feels a little different than the old Mario Karts. Like Mario Kart 8 got very hectic.
Yeah, this feels like there's more momentum though, because even when you're on the cars, you could see them, kind of move around the chassis and everything.
But the problem with that is you also have to build up that momentum, and sometimes you just get smacked around 3 or 4 times in a row, and then you're sitting there chugging on a straightaway, going, "Come on, car, come on!"
Yeah, that would be my other noise for sure. Is the absolutely unruly and unfair AI. Like it's not so much you racing better because you could have the cleanest race imaginable, and more times than we can count, both of us independently and with Randall, you're at the finish line like 20 feet away, and all of a sudden just a bombardment of items, and that's it. You went from first to like 6th.
Well, and like I showed you that video of somebody discovering that the AI ramps up as you race better, which is, there's rubber banding we've talked about in the past in other old Mario Karts and everything, but that just sounds ridiculous. That the better you get at the game, they're going to screw you harder.
There's a balance, and that's the thing is I don't mind it until it's like the last stretch of the race, because that's really where it counts. Because at that point, like I said, you got the cleanest race, and if this difficulty scaling is true, which is what people are guessing, right? It hasn't been confirmed necessarily, but it looks to be the case. There should be zero reason why at the finish line you're getting hit with so many items that it's impossible to get 3 stars half the time, or 3 stars on the GPs, because you're just destroying the last stretch. It's really not fun in that regard, and I think it's absolute nonsense. But again, like they could patch these things. Like it's still, it's been out for like a week and a half. So I think it's one of those things where it sucks, but there is potential to get it adjusted.
There's certain things that they could patch, like odd timing that seems very inconvenient for you and convenient for them. Like I don't know how many times I immediately get an item box and then immediately get hit with a lightning. Like how is it every single time?
Well, I showed you guys that video where I was in first. I had like a decent lead. I was right on the final corner of the track, and I get hit with a blue shell, which you could barely see coming out of the corner of the little indicator. It was just zoomed out. And then I got hit with that. The moment I landed, I got hit with both a red shell and lightning at the very end. Yeah. And I just was like, my mouth was just literally agape. I was like, what just happened? Like I was about to cross the finish line here. But aside from all that garbage, like the usual shit that they could patch, it's a really amazing and fun game. Like the courses are really awesome.
There's still like, you can have totally hilarious moments. Like last night when we were playing and you just describe weird shit that happened to you, and everybody can laugh.
Multiplayer shines. Like they're, my nitpicks are just that. They're nitpicks. Like they don't, I would say they ruin my enjoyment to an extent, but not enough to where like I'm so angry about it. But everything else, like the tracks have been really fantastic. The new physics are really great. Like I like the choppy waters that kind of remind me of Wave Race.
Oh yeah, and then you can trick off those.
Free roam's kind of cool. I wish there was a little bit more meat there, because as it is, like it's really great because there's so much to explore, but it's pretty barren, and the only thing, at least the only reward I could see now, is like these really stupid profile stickers. Yeah. So you have all these great missions, all these unlockable hidden blocks you could find, but the only reward is like these goofy stickers, which you can only equip one at a time. There's literally like hundreds of these things.
Yeah, and you put one on your cart, and obviously everybody's going too fast for you to see that on your cart.
Yeah, you can see it on the profile when you play online, but again, like, that's assuming you're close to your buddy and everything like that. So, again, like small minor thing, like free roam is still fun just to kind of chill out and roam around, because you can just kind of explore and see all the secrets. I wish there was a little bit more substance there, But again, like the rest of the game has been phenomenal. Like I've been playing it the entire week because it's just so fun to pick up and play. And the Switch 2 screen also looks really fantastic. Like it's not OLED, but it looks great. I'd say it's sizably bigger, noticeably bigger.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been playing an original Switch. I never even got an OLED Switch 1, so anything is an improvement to me.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's a massive leap for you. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. If you're going from the OG Switch 1.
Yeah, it's like going from an iPhone 4 to like something now.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, though, like, we already did our Mario Kart rankings, but where would you kind of slot this in now to the overall list?
It's really hard because I would say, like, my immediate thought is like top 3 somewhere. But again, it's like it's one of those things where Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is so good because it also has 10 years, almost 10 years of content, 10 years of balance and whatever else to where they could tweak these things. So it got to a really great point. I think Mario Kart World is going to get to that point where there's going to be content added. I hope. I'm sure there has to be some sort of DLC. There's probably more tracks. And I think that's going to make it, it's definitely going to sell it in that top 3 for sure. I don't know where I put it yet because it's like, again, we've had it for a week and like I know the honeymoon period is there and it's sweet.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long it's going to last at a certain point.
Yeah, my knee-jerk reaction was it doesn't get top spot. Like I still really enjoy Mario Kart 8.
Yeah.
But like the proof is in the pudding, you might say, where we haven't played Mario Kart 8 since we got this.
That's true.
So it's still probably got to rank up there pretty high. But it hasn't taken over number 1 for me yet.
I would say it's definitely met my expectations for what I was hoping for for a Switch 2 launch game. So I'm happy with that. Like, again, it's like I'm always critical about things, like try to be objective about these things. Like, I'm not saying like, I'd say, what's what I'm looking for? Unkind or irrational. Yeah. It's just stuff that I wish they could work on and fix. But overall, like, it's Mario Kart. If you love Mario Kart, you're going to love this one all the same. There's no, there's nothing that's going to stop you from playing this.
I'm still going to get gold on everything possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Begrudgingly and angrily, but we're going to do it. Yeah. Was there anything else you had top of mind there, Deuce, that you were playing?
No, I've just, since I got the Switch 2, I've gone back and played some old games to see how they look on this new bigger screen of mine. And, Super Metroid looks amazing. And I played some Yoshi's Island. Yeah, all the old school games are still going to look awesome on this new one.
They do, and one thing I should point out that I wish Nintendo would have made a bigger deal about, but a lot of Switch 1 games actually perform considerably better on the Switch 2 because their emulation, from what I understand, it's software-based, and then a lot of Switch 1 games are sort of CPU limited, which means like, it's processor limited. So they have to use like a frame rate cap, or what have you, and the Switch 2, some games perform way better. Like I was playing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which is like that Dynasty Warriors Zelda mashup. I really enjoyed it, but it's a chunky looking game on Switch 1 and it's kind of ugly. But Switch 2, like the frame rate's so smooth and it still looks like, an outdated Switch 1 game. Like I think in docked mode or portable mode, it runs at like 480p or something ridiculous. But the art style services it to where you don't really notice it, but the smoother frame rate makes it such a much more enjoyable experience. So they've been doing a great job with the backwards compatible stuff. I wish they would have talked about it more because actually it's pretty significant for a lot of games.
Well, one game I want to get back into, my first one that I want to get back into is Mario and Luigi Brothership because that already looked pretty good on the Switch 1, but now it's going to look even better.
I'm curious, because I'm curious if that'll have a frame rate boost because a lot of these haven't even had patches to update them.
Yeah.
And most haven't, they don't have any graphical enhancements. So that's why like, Age of Calamity runs the way it does is because it's locked to a resolution, whether it's docked or portable. And, it's just a frame rate that's unlocked. So I think it'll be interesting because there's going to be a lot of videos that we'll see over time of people testing these out.
Yeah.
So it'll be really cool to see some old Switch games that are going to be rediscovered for sure. So yeah, I've been playing Mario Kart World, obviously. A little bit of Age of Calamity. I've also been playing Street Fighter 6 because they released Elena, who's from Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Well, Street Fighter 3 in general. She was one of my 2 main characters on there. She's sort of this capoeira girl. And I was really good with her in Street Fighter 3. And obviously with 6, it's, what is this, 3-4 generations later? It's a bit of a what's what I'll use?
Learning
sort of a learning curve, a very hilly peak. Like I've been losing a lot.
Like a steep cliff.
Yeah, steep cliff. But, I've been having a lot of fun because she's kind of like the Eddie Gordo of Street Fighter 6.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there's a lot of mix-ups, a lot of different traps, a lot of sort of guessing games and whatnot. But anytime I have an excuse to go back to Street Fighter 6, I'm always more than delighted. So it's been really fun. The other game I started last night, I didn't get to play too much because we played Mario Kart World right after.
Oh, yeah.
was this new game called The Alters. So I'm kind of, I don't know, I guess we'll kind of get into it with later in our episode too, but it's like sort of sim builders. I'm hit or miss with these crafting games or base management. It really depends on the theme of the game, how deep it is, like how complex it gets. And so far, this game has been just enough complexity where I'm not overwhelmed with things, but also there's this really cool story tied to it. So you play as this guy named Jan who he's on a mission from Earth with a whole crew off into space to sit on this planet where they're trying to mine rupidium, which is this element that is some sort of time traveling element. Which the whole idea is like this company, this giant corporation, big surprise, is saying that if we mine this resource, we can sort of rapidly grow. What's one like for agriculture? Like agriculture will be improved on Earth. We'll be able to advance the age of animals, right? So they could it would take like years for animals to age, right? This thing would rapidly age them or help them so they're available to harvest and whatnot. So you end up crash landing on this planet. Your whole crew's dead. And you're stuck on this planet that's also heavily radiated. And the whole idea is like you have your base that you're building upon, and the person you're contacted at Earth, which of course is like a scrambled image, is saying, well, you can mine the resource rupidium and sort of clone yourself, and because it's a time travel thing, like it'll age your clone to a point where they're your age, right?
And then they can help you.
Yeah, and they have different abilities, they all have different stats, and they're all sort of based on your sort of life events, because there's also something in your quantum computer that chronicles your whole life, like from like your young years to your adult life, and how you got on this sort of space expedition. So I'm at a point now where I'm about to start cloning myself so I could put them to work. Because the whole idea is like you're supposed to get back to Earth and also bring back the rupidium. So I don't know where this game's going. It's got a really wild premise, and it's like
it sounds like there's going to be a clone uprising at some point.
It reminds me of like I was telling you, like the movie The Martian, where it's like he's stranded like on Mars or whatever, and there's just sort of you're meant to like make food for yourself, and like you're supposed to have your base built so it's livable and whatnot. So I'm really curious where it goes because the story sounds really intriguing, but I'm really interested so far. So in the first like couple hours, I'm like, this could be good. I hope it keeps me hooked. It's not terribly expensive. I think it's like $30 or it's on Game Pass as well. So if you want it on PC Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass.
Lucky for me.
Lucky for you. It's worth a shot. If you don't like it, fine, delete it,
I'm always interested in these base builder games, and I got pretty good at it in like XCOM, but that's also one of those strategy games where the base building is sort of secondary.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the ones that are the primary base building thing, I sometimes get frozen by choice right from the beginning. And I'm like, am I making the right decisions right away? And most of the time with my luck, I'm not. And then I just make it harder for myself in the late game.
That's what happens to me too. And there's times where it's like, it'll say, go mine this specific resource. And I'm like looking all over like, what am I missing? Like even last night it says, mine organics. So I put up like this pylon that mines like this, like water basically. And I was looking all over the immediate area because you can't venture out too far yet because you only have you only have so much daylight to the point where from when your character gets tired, and then the radiation levels go up. So you have to get back to your base so you can rest. And also it's like the later you get home, so to speak, the later he gets up the next morning, which means you have less time of day to do resources and whatever else. But I was like, where else can I get this organic water stuff? I can't find it. And then it turns out that me being an idiot, now you have to set up the pylon, connect it to your base, which is what I did. But you have to go back to the pylon and then flip the switch so it starts mining. So I'm like looking over the map, like I need more resource deposits. Like, what am I missing? I don't see any. And then I went back. It's like, oh, God, I'm so stupid. So stuff like that. Yeah. I just have to flip the switch. So it's just some of those things where the game doesn't tell you like, hey, you have to turn on the pylons to start mining the resource. So it's stuff like that I have to get used to.
I was going to say not entirely your fault because a lot of games automatically starts working.
That's what I thought. Because I connected the cabling to my base, and I saw like lights going through. So like, all right, cool, we're in business. And I wasn't seeing the organic thing go up. I was like, am I missing something? So I'm like trying to plot for other areas to mine stuff, and it's just a stupid thing. I was only in the first hour, so I felt stupid, but now I know, now I understand. So I think it's a really cool game. It's got a really cool premise. I don't know where it's going to go. Apparently, it's like a reasonably lengthy game, and with this, also I can appreciate that it's straightforward and linear. So it's like, it's not like you have a fail state, at least I could tell so far, where it's like you're just out of resources and you're dead and you have to restart. It's not like a roguelike kind of presence, right?
Yeah.
You might die, but I assume that's, you can't really put yourself in a corner and have to restart the game, as far as I know.
Yeah, you'll just like, if you die, you just restart as a clone.
Yeah. So really cool game, really cool premise. I love when games do this. They have like a new idea that I really haven't seen before, and then they dress it up with this really thick sci-fi, middle of the universe kind of atmosphere. So I'm really excited to see where this one goes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ducey. Well, I think it's time now. We can start talking about games that were really great, but for some reason we did not like. All right, Juicy, we are here at our main event, as we like to say sometimes. So we were prefaced earlier in the show. These are a lot of games that were, they're either critically acclaimed, they have a lot of mainstream love, or maybe there's like a really strong cult fan base. Sometimes all these titles have all those components to them too.
Yeah.
But for one reason or another, we dived into them. Sometimes multiple times. I can tell you there's certain instances on this list where I've started like 3 or 4 times and it just doesn't hook you. So I think we have a lot of fun games on this list, and there might be some surprises for some people where it's like, you didn't like this? Why?
Yep.
And there's even a couple where I might say to you, what? There's 2 I could look at right now, but we'll get to those soon enough. So, Ducey, would you like to kick us off on this list of games where they were great but did not click?
God, yeah, one of the earliest ones I think that didn't click for me was because I was trying to go back and I was trying to think of Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I was trying to go in order generationally, and I realized that there weren't too many on the old ones, because I think we've spoken about it before on the podcast where we were at the mercy of what our parents got us or what we asked for Christmas. So like, we of course wanted to enjoy those games, and we went based on what everybody was talking about. So of course we were going to love the Mario series and the Zelda series and Sonic and stuff like that. This one came out for the N64, and it was the first one in a long series by this publisher, Rareware. And, I already loved GoldenEye and Diddy Kong Racing. And then Jet Force Gemini came out. Mm-hmm. And this was so super hyped, like the next one by Rare. And when I did look at it and I did play it a little bit, I could see where they were going, and I could see why it was like a good step forward for the N64 era. But it really didn't hook me, and the controls for me kind of sucked because it was like inverted. And yeah, I just couldn't get past the first level, the first area.
I put this on my list too because I do recall there was a ton of hype, because at this point, I don't know, I forgot when this came out as far as the Rare lineage, so to speak.
I think Banjo and Diddy Kong Racing.
I think those released out. Yeah, those 2 for sure. But at this point, it was, and I might be wrong, but my perception was like, the perception out there was Rare could do no wrong, right? Because you had GoldenEye, you had Banjo-Kazooie, you had Diddy Kong Racing.
And even Blast Corps.
Blast Corps was out. That was an early N64 game. And those, that was maybe less loved as GoldenEye because that was definitely a really early N64 game.
Yeah.
And when Jet Force Gemini was about to come out, I remember the Nintendo Powers, because I had a subscription then. I see it at your house. I think there was even one of those VHS tapes that Nintendo put out that might have been about Jet Force Gemini.
Yeah, there might have been.
There was a lot of buzz about this game, and I remember I finally bought it at Blockbuster used because I never really saw it for rent. And I was surprised that, did you rent that time? I don't remember if you did.
No, I think I played it at your house.
Okay.
Very briefly, and then years later it came out on Rare Replay, and I was going to give it another shot because they altered the controls to be more modern.
Yeah, they updated it.
It did not help.
No. Yeah, so I vividly remember I bought it at Blockbuster and then actually returned it because I was like, I really don't like this, because I kind of had the same issues you did where I played it. The controls didn't feel precise. It was almost like a strafing shooter in some instances because you had like all these bugs, and it was almost like open world, like kind of like Banjo-Kazooie, I guess, in a way too. But it just wasn't fun to play. Like, there's just these ants coming at you, or these insectoids, I guess we'll call them, that are coming at you, and like you just shoot them down. The controls didn't feel good to use because this was like first person shooter where we kind of found what works on the N64, even though this was a third person game. And then on top of that, I read long after the fact that to actually finish the game, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
There's like 300, I forgot what they call them. There's like these collectible creatures you have to get because you're kind of like saving all these creatures off this planet to escape.
Yeah.
And each section has a certain amount. And I think there's like 300, 200 something. So there's a lot. And what, if I recall correctly, this game does not tell you how many you have in the area. It doesn't tell you which ones you've collected in the area. And to get the trending, you have to collect every single one of these. And if you die or leave the area, it doesn't save them. So I think it's like you have to go through and complete the level with all of them. And then that technically counts as counting.
I think you can at least, I think if you finish the area and then get to the end of the game, you can go back to ones, but you don't know for sure where you've missed them.
Oh, okay.
Because the ending of the game tells you, hey, you didn't get everybody. We need to get everybody so then you can see like the final boss and the final cutscene and everything, and then you can go back. But like you said, they don't have a very detailed list or anything like that. You just start having to like blindly go through or get the player's guide from Nintendo Power.
Yes, I'm sure that was a big selling point. Actually, I think these were called tribals, if I recall correctly.
Something like that, yeah.
Sounds familiar, yeah. So it sucks because, again, like, there was a lot of hype around this game. It's funny because, you know, I didn't have many friends back then. Not that I do now either. But it's like amongst my circle of friends, no one really cared about this game. Like, you and I had played it and we're just like, what is this? We just waited for whatever's next on the Rare slate and we played that. But this was definitely like the miss of the Rare timeline for me. And even playing on Rare Replay, I was like, again, like it does help that the controls are a little bit more modernized. It controls a little bit better, but it's not great. It's still rooted in 1998, whenever this came out. And it sucks because then, like, I think this still has like a bit of a cult following, but I think people are kind of realizing like it wasn't as great as they thought it was back then. Like, it's not as talked about as the other Rare games.
Yeah, it's weird that people will get on Rare for having collectathons like Banjo and Donkey Kong and stuff, but this one was like more egregious than those.
I'd say this might be, you know, like Donkey Kong had like those 3,000 collectibles we talked about.
Yeah.
But I think this is more offensive because there's no way to track them. It's definitely pre-Donkey Kong 64, where I can't imagine playing Donkey Kong 64 and not realizing where your collectibles are, like how many you had, right? Like there's 100 bananas for each character. Like, well, do I have 75 or 99, you know? Oh, there's one on the tower I couldn't see. Great. I spent 10 hours looking for that stupid thing, you know?
Yeah, but I will say that I do like the looks of Jet Force. Like when I see screenshots or when I see it in motion, it looks really good. I liked the idea that it had a sci-fi story to it and everything.
I like that there was two characters. I think it was a brother and sister.
Yeah.
Like, the aesthetic and art style was really nice.
And I think they played differently, and you had a little like dog companion that
played. I think he floated around, and I don't know if he could collect items. I don't know what he did, but he was sort of like your cutesy pet that would float around with you. Yeah.
And like I said, there was voice acting in this, which was kind of a novel idea for games at the time. So
especially in 64.
Yeah, they did a good job in those aspects. It just like did not hook me.
Yeah, it's just I've tried at least, I don't know, 3 times over the last 2.5 decades, and it's just not there. I'd rather go play any other Rare game.
Yep.
Unfortunately, yeah. One of the games I put on my list, which may be a surprise for some people, is Earthbound on the Super Nintendo. So this one's definitely a cult favorite. It still has its fans now, and it's interesting because I feel like Smash Brothers is what led to the sort of resurgence of Earthbound for sure, right? Because Ness was in Super Smash Bros. 1 as an unlockable character, and I feel like that's when people are like, oh, modern Earthbound exists. So Earthbound was released on Super Nintendo. I believe it's I think it's the second. I don't think it's the third game in the series, because is it the second?
Yeah.
Okay, because there's Mother 3 like on Game Boy something, I think, right?
Mother 3 was Japan only, and I think it was
Famicom.
I think it was Super Famicom.
Okay,
also.
maybe we got port or something. I don't know what the case was.
But Mother 1 was NES, surprisingly.
Yes, I remember. I've read about that one. I've seen a little bit about it, and I was very shocked because, again, like, this is just called Earthbound, so I have no relation to anything before it.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing this at Blockbuster back then because the box is very iconic. It's a giant cardboard box because it included the guide, which was a great gimmick, and the front of the box has like this nondescript orange robot looking guy. So back then I didn't really know anything about it, and then it was hard to find just naturally because it didn't sell well, and my Blockbuster probably had that one copy that maybe someone never brought back. I have no idea. So I played this long after the fact, which also might be part of the problem why I didn't really enjoy this one, because the story, at least from what I could recall, is, you know, you're basically playing like as these kids, like Ness and his buddies, and there's Gigos or something like that, who's sort of like this almost like realm eater chaos being, and you have to collect these 7 or 8 melodies to basically kill him. And it gets in this really crazy, like, existential sort of in between realities kind of thing, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
But when I played this, I was just like, I don't see the hype. Like, the combat's kind of slow. It has like this roulette wheel where it's like if you get hit, it counts down, and then it's almost like a null counter. So if it gets to 0, your character dies unless you like heal them or revive them. It's like, to me, this is sort of like like at this point, like there was a lot of great RPGs out on the Super Nintendo. I think Chrono Trigger was just about to come out. I can't recall, but you still had like Final Fantasy VI, the Final Fantasy games. You had like the Breath of Fires, which were primitive but still really fun. And this game, like, it just didn't hook me for whatever reason. I tried playing it, and like it's so slow. I think the graphics look really nice though. Like, the thing is, like, they're pretty simple for Super Nintendo, but for one reason or another, it's just I really wanted to like it because of all the hype. And I just cannot get into this game.
Yeah, I didn't put it on my list because I did not get hyped for it at all when it first came out. I remember seeing the box like you did at Blockbuster, and I didn't really realize that it was an RPG. Like when I thought of RPGs back then, I thought Final Fantasy, and even then, I didn't get hooked on RPGs until Mario RPG, really. So I had no interest in even looking at this game. But then I saw in years to come, I saw why it got a cult following, because it was actually very cleverly written.
Yeah.
And
the story is really crazy.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's interesting. And you're a group of kids. So when we were kids back then, it probably should have spoken to us, because it's like, hey, it's us and our friends out on a big adventure.
I think Ness even has like a yo-yo and a baseball bat, right?
Yeah.
So it's like kind of scratched that Star Tropics itch in that sense.
Yeah.
There's some sort of hook there. But yeah, I think, I almost didn't put some on the list, but I feel like I had to, because I did play it. It's just, maybe I played it, 15 years too late. I don't know.
Yeah. To this day, I still haven't tried it, because then I started hearing friend reviews from like you and our buddy Mike and everything. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to ruin my perception of it. I think it's a good game for the cult following that loves it. But I don't want to play it and then be like jaded.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, I'd seen some videos on it, and I should watch one that just recaps the whole game, like with the story.
Oh, yeah.
All throughout, because that's really what I'm interested in, because I've seen like the Video Game Nerd where he didn't like critically review it. Like he made jokes about it, but then by then he was like, wow, this story is like really insane and pretty thoughtful for the type of game it is. Like it's kind of a cutesy game, but it's got a really deep and like, dark story.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I would like to experience that. So it's one of those things where maybe this game should have a remake at some point. I could see that happening. I mean, not that I could see it happening, but I wish something like that would happen, where maybe they'll modernize certain things or kind of like change the pacing. I don't know. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I really want to get into it because the story sounds fantastic. It's just the combat, everything else just isn't clicking for me. I can't pinpoint exactly why.
All right. My next one I will mention is probably going to elicit some reactions, like you said. But it's the Diablo series.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've tried multiple times to get into Diablo 3, and then more recently Diablo 4 came out, and I appreciate what these games do, because I'm a huge fan of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which is practically the same thing.
They are. That's why, so it's like, I knew you weren't a big fan of Diablo, but that's why I was curious, because they're basically Marvel Ultimate Alliance and X-Men Legends. Like they're the same genre. It's just, this is a case where I think it's definitely the theme helps with the genre, right?
Whereas like for Marvel, I understand all of the characters. I understand the stories that they're telling, and I want to see more of them. And Diablo just seems like, for me, just a run-of-the-mill high fantasy. There's devils and demons, and you're the good guys, and you're going through these dungeons. And also, when I play the multiplayer aspect of it, a lot of people are at different points of the game. So we're all just like skipping through cutscenes or doing things rushed, and I don't hear any of the story behind it. So I'm just like, okay, go over here, slaughter a whole group of enemies, get some items, go to the town, and then people are already leaving the town, and I'm still trying to upgrade something.
Yeah, and that's sort of a difference of how we play, right? Because I love these ARPGs, these action RPGs like Diablo, Last Epic, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, because the story to me with these kind of games is always secondary. Like I can't recall one where I was totally compelled and just gripped by the story, because you're right, like Diablo is sort of the same story. It's always like someone opens up a portal to hell, there's Diablo or Lilith coming through, and you're set to stop it. Great. That's about as cut and dry as you can get.
Yep.
But the thing I love about these games is the sort of freneticism and just the hordes of enemies you can just destroy. And also the skill trees and like all the skills you can use in different classes. I love these games for just playing like a dungeon or two and getting my fix, because I've played through Diablo 3 and 4 all the way through, actually multiple times, because our friend Matt, I've played through a few times with him, and we've done a ton of dungeons. So I think this game really does shine in multiplayer. But at the same time, if there's no story to hook you, then the same. And especially, I think with you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you're more story driven with certain games. Mm-hmm. So it's like if there's a story there and like you can't listen to it, you're like, well, why the hell am I bothering with this? Because I'm just kind of going through the motions, right?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I think it would have been different if I'd gotten into it on like Diablo 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. Because that's where a lot of people have started their cult following of this, obviously, and each of the games in the series has been great. I know some people are like, oh, this one's better. Oh, this one's better. But
there's always going to be those critics online who are just nitpicking about everything.
But they're also, like, to me, all the same. Mm-hmm. So it's just more of a good thing if you're a fan of the game. But I wasn't from the beginning, so I don't know the backstory to everything. And it's not like certain old games on Nintendo or Super Nintendo where you really didn't have to care about the story because they were probably in the instruction booklet more than in the game. Mm-hmm. Whereas now they took the time to make these cutscenes and these and people doing voice acting and everything, and I want to experience that.
Yeah, and I did that with 3 and 4. Like honestly, I liked 4 more than I did with 3 as far as the story because I did go through the main campaign with 4 well before Matt and you played it because I got it before you guys. So I enjoyed the story for what it was, but again, like. It's not anything to write home about. Like, it was really well made. It's well crafted. I think there's like 5 acts. So it's like, if you're sort of set in the mood for it, it's there and it's pretty good. But then you also have to like the game itself. So it's like, it sucks when you can't get into the story and then the game just isn't clicking for you either. You know? So I totally get it. I didn't start with Diablo 1 or 2. I played Diablo 1 on PS1 because like I think like my half uncle had it or something. Mm-hmm. So I really know what the hell I was doing back then. I was like 10 or 11 years old. I was like, I don't really get this game. It wasn't until like I don't know what was my first ARPG. Oh, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance on PS2. Did you play that one back then?
No.
Oh man, so that was like Diablo Light, and it was co-op. And my buddy and I, Brandon, played the hell out of that because it's like Baldur's Gate, but it's an ARPG. So there's gelatinous cubes. You have an archer. You have a mage. It was a great time.
Yeah, that sounds like another one I'll talk about, or you'll talk about, where like it's a perfect blend of what you want. I never even saw that. I think my first ones were really X-Men Legends, and then into the Marvel Ultimate Alliance series, and those were perfect for me.
Those were fantastic. Because I love those games.
Also, you don't have to like do a whole lot of crafting in towns or back at the main hubs and stuff. You just put on a new item that ups your stats. And then you go out and slash and kill and get the skill points to better your moves. But in the meantime, you're following a comic story that I am actually interested in.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Because like with Diablo, I'm the opposite where I got this perception. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but I feel like most of the good equipment is post-game, right? Mm. So for me, it's like if I collect a bunch of garbage, I can quickly kind of eyeball everything like, all right, garbage, scrap, whatever. And then I'm ready to go to the next dungeon or something like that. But it's like, it does suck when you get stuck in the minutia of that stuff and you're trying to painstakingly look through the equipment and you have a bunch of garbage gear. Because there are other games where it's like, I'm sitting there, it's like, why do I have so much garbage? Don't give me this stuff. Like, have a loot filter at least.
It's funny, too, because I play and really enjoy the Borderlands series, and that has a ton of garbage guns.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And in that, I have trained my eye to immediately look at, oh, this isn't better than what I have. I set myself up a particular way so I know what I want, and then I scrap the rest. But I haven't learned that, obviously, in these other games that also include more than just weapons. It's like armor and everything.
Yeah, and this thing with Borderlands is a little bit more streamlined, which is fine, because that also means you're into the action more often. Because that's why I don't painstakingly go over the gear, because it's like, I don't want to be like sitting there for 10, 15 minutes going through this crap that might make, a 2% difference in my damage. Or it might be the opposite, where I've changed my gear loadout and all of a sudden I'm getting demolished or something, depending on how you set up your skills and whatnot. So, yeah. There's a lot of dynamics there, but again, I could totally understand why someone would be in Diablo. It's totally reasonable, One I'm going to talk about on my side is, this one's a little bit different. It's Undertale. Have you heard of this one? Do you have much familiar with this? You might have heard the name.
I've only heard the name. I haven't really seen anything about it, though, but I heard it's got a huge cult following.
It does. So it's got a huge cult following.
And the critics liked it.
The critics love it. It's one of the best reviewed games of like 2015. I think it's 2015. It's a sort of 8-bit style RPG. And the idea is like, I guess you're stuck in the sort of underworld. You're a human stuck in the underworld where these monsters have been banished. And it has sort of this turn-based RPG system where it has a little bit of QTE, where it's like you have your typical commands like attack, defend, and whatnot. And some things will be like, attack or cast a spell, and it'll make you match up a circle over a crosshair or something like that, right? Some sort of interactivity. And so mind you, before this, there was a ton of hype. I've seen it like on GameFAQs, best games ever. I think this is like a generational thing, frankly, which is why I may not like it.
Oh, wow.
But it's like, it's one of those games where it's like one of the finalists with like the best game ever kind of thing. I hear nothing but great things. It's been done by one developer named, I think his name's Toby something. I forgot his name. But he has another series called Deltarune that I'm always hearing about and I know nothing about. But I tried Undertale when it was on, I think it was PS Plus or Game Pass. I forgot one of those services like way back, like within the last 7 or 8 years. And I don't want to say I bit into the hype, but I understood the hype in the back of my head where it's like, all right, I'm ready to get immersed. And I played this and I was like, I'm just freaking bored. Like, I'm just kind of meandering about, and there's a system here where you can passively go through enemies. So it's like you can go through like a pacifist run because there's multiple endings in here. And I might have read wrong, but there's like dozens of endings you could potentially get. I don't know the criteria for all of them.
No, I've heard that too. I think it's based on like how many you kill, or or if you do a complete pacifist thing.
Yeah, like I understand there's an ending for like genocide where you basically kill every enemy in the game or something like that. And there's one where you don't kill anything. And again, it's something where I want to enjoy this game. I'm not sure where the story is because there's some people where I've seen reactions online where they've said like this game is sort of not changed their life in a different way, but it's something that's emotionally impactful, right? Where certain games you play and like you remember them, right? They're memorable for a reason, whether they've affected your life or maybe it's something relatable to it. So I didn't know what that really meant. And when I played it, I was just like, I'm just freaking bored. Like I put like an hour and a half. I'm like, I don't know where I'm really going. I tried the combat. It's not very exciting. So it's one of those things where I wanted to try this game again because it's always on sale. It's always like $5. But this is one of the big ones where it's like everyone loves this game, at least for I could tell. And there's only a handful of people who are like, yeah, I just don't get it. Like I've played it and it doesn't make sense to me.
I heard the writing is sort of like Earthbound as well.
It is.
So it's kind of a spiritual successor to that one.
Which again, it's kind of ironic. I put Earthbound on my list and this is sort of related to that or sort of inspired in that sense. Yeah.
And it sounds like I would enjoy this one too because I do like going back to old JRPGs compared to the RPGs of today. And like you said, it's 8-bit. I really enjoy old-timey games like that, or homages to old-timey games like that. But yeah, I didn't put this on my list because I just haven't tried it. Yeah. I haven't been hyped about it. I haven't been like, oh, I'm never going to try it. I might try it someday. I also saw that they have that new one coming out, Deltarune.
Yeah, Deltarune. I saw a lot of hype around that the last couple of weeks. I think it just came out.
Yeah. And when I saw the trailer for it, I'm like, this looks like Undertale. Oh, right, same guy.
Oh, same person. Yeah. So this is, I think, most of these games I've tried more than once, or I've started more than once, or I put time in. This is the only one I think I've only tried once. Because, again, it was like one session. I sat there, was like, this isn't clicking for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So, again, like pretty much every game on this list I would like to go to at some point and hope it hooks. I'd say most of them on this list. I don't want to say all of them. But there's some, like this one I would definitely try again. Maybe it's something where I don't think I had a Switch back then, so maybe I would enjoy it more if I just had it portably, like I was playing on my Switch or watching TV or listening to a podcast. So this one, again, I won't be totally dismissive of it, but I'm just saying like at the time I tried it, it did nothing for me.
This kind of brings up a thought where, I mentioned I couldn't think of games for this list that came from the Nintendo or Super Nintendo era too much. And I think it's because a lot of games now have like a startup section to it, and people will even grade that when they're giving a review. They're like, oh, it's slow to start. Mm-hmm. You have to go in for a few hours before it really gets going. And I'm like, I don't have the time for that anymore these days.
Well, it's also, that's a factor. I'd say it's also, like you said, though, like the sort of way information is transferred nowadays is way different. Whereas like a lot of games we went from, like you said, we were too young to try so many games. Now we have access to literally thousands of games through different subscription services, or they're dirt cheap. But back then it was really just word of mouth. Like when we were really young, there was no internet that existed that we could get on.
Yeah.
And even when the internet was around, it was still really limited. Like you had these really small communities of gaming where it's like you kind of pass information around, but now it's like you see so much hype and like things go viral. And I think that's kind of the different dynamic here. It's like you see these things that suddenly bubble up out of nowhere. Like Undertale back then, I had no frame of reference for what it was. I just saw the hype bubble up, and once I tried, I was like, oh, okay. But back then it was like you said, we'd vet it to each other. It's like, all right, well, don't play, Chacon or something because of XYZ.
Or we would, like, one of us would rent something and then we'd play it for a day and be like,
yeah, that's enough.
I either want to get it immediately, or no, that was cool.
Yeah, I'll be returning this on Sunday.
Yeah.
All right, dude. So you go with another one on your list here.
My next one is another entire series, and it is the Gears of War series.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. This was one that, like you said, you sometimes try it once or sometimes try it a lot. I've tried this so many times. It is, and I haven't actually played it since they started making remasters and making them look better. Like I tried it, I don't know, 4 or 5 different times way back when it first came out, and even co-op, I just got to about the same point, like mission 3 or 4, and then just stopped for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know why it didn't hook me. It's got guys versus aliens, and you have a freaking chainsaw gun.
Really great cover-based shooting.
Yes.
Like this, a lot of games pulled from this, and I would say there's a game called Kill Switch that did the cover-based shooting even before this, but Gears of War really popularized it and made cover-based shooting really amazing.
Yeah, it's a pioneer, and I appreciate that. It's like, thank you for your service, Gears, but I didn't like the multiplayer at all compared to what we were doing with Halo and Call of Duty.
That didn't hook me either. Like, I will say I love the series, but yeah, the multiplayer was definitely not... It didn't have any hook for me.
Yeah, and I do know, I've heard various spoilers of the story, and I could see how it can be emotional for, just having a bunch of jarhead guys.
They look like brute muscle heads, like meatheads, but they're actually like just not like mindless soldiers, like they're people with emotions and whatnot, which is the big change.
There could be deaths and things that permanently change throughout the series, and I was just like, okay, whatever. But I also, when I look back on it, all I remember is that it was during that era where everything was a muddy brown.
Yeah, this was definitely peak 360 PS3 era where everything was like, just like you said, muddy, brown, gritty.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, this is like any one of 100 games out that are coming out right now. Even though, like I said, it was very much a pioneer of things, and good on them for that. But I just never got past the first one and never had any interest in the sequels.
Yeah, this is a great one because I love this series so much, and it's like it always sucks because I wish we could have gotten through this co-op because I've played through all of them except Judgment. That was like I think technically the fourth spin-off game. Like there was Gears 1, 2, 3, and there was Judgment, which was like that one weird like like it was like Halo ODST where it's like related to Gears, but it's tangentially different, right? I didn't beat that one, but I played through all three. I played through the first game co-op on Insane, which was a really awesome experience because it's just really difficult. So that's when I would say like I'd be shocked about why you didn't like it, but it's also I could totally understand because again, it's like if a lot of things don't click, it's hard for you to keep going with these games because it's not like this game's like, probably like a solid 10 to 12 hours. And if by like hour 3, you're like, yeah, I don't want 9 more hours of this. I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when I got to about mission 3 or 4, it's like, okay, I'm doing more of the same. Mm-hmm. And I know that some games I like that because I don't want new things introduced late in the game. And I want to experience a story in a lot of games these days. But for some reason, I did not want to experience the story of that game.
Yeah. This one, I do love Gears of War because, there's always a delicate balance with games of making sure that things are introduced at a good pace, right? Whether it's enemies, new mechanics. And I think Gears did that pretty well throughout the series because it's always like you fight your drones, you fight your, sort of standard fodder, then you get like the really big, huge guys, and you get like new weapons like the Hammer at Dawn. Like I know you love that weapon, right? Where it calls like that big old satellite beam to destroy the battlefield. So it's one of those things where it sucks. I feel like if this game had maybe better balance that for you probably would have gotten hooked better. And I'm surprised because again, like co-op would have been a shoo-in for us too. But again, like if it just doesn't click, it just doesn't click. It makes sense. Next one on my list, I guess this one's kind of cheating though because I'm not a sports fan really at all.
That's what I was thinking when I saw this on your list.
Yeah, but I'm going to put it because it is a mainstream. It makes tons of money every single year. People complain about. And when I see people, I mean like a vocal minority or like people online or whatever, critics.
Yeah.
People complain about it, but it's Madden, the Madden series. So I'm not a big football fan at all. I will not sit there and watch football. Like I might watch an end to a game or something, or if someone invites me, like I might hang out and kind of dollar around or something and maybe watch it. My love for football was only related to NFL 2K, like that series and on. That's the only reason I played football games after that.
And Blitz,
actually, which was previous to that. So unless it's arcadey goodness, I really can't get into it. And with Madden, I know there's, I think it's like 04 is considered sort of like one of the bigger peaks of the series. Mm-hmm. It's like I can play them for a little bit, but I just can't get hooked into it. Like it just doesn't work for me. But again, it's a little bit cheating because I don't watch baseball, I don't watch football, I don't watch soccer. I kind of watch hockey every now and then. So again, like this is sort of my cheater sort of edition.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Madden series. I haven't played one though in I don't know how many years because they started to become all the same and go down in quality even. Like they were reusing assets and they were being called out on it.
Yeah, they were caught.
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally assets say like Madden 19, but it's Madden 20 or whatever year that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you hear from our friends that play it annually and they're like, oh, here's what they're claiming. Oh, look, it didn't change. Mm-hmm. But I also don't put it down too much because I was interested in it and I am interested in it, and I would play football if I had more time. But I'm also like, I'm into the NBA 2K series, and I'm also into like F1 or NASCAR. So my sports catalog is full right now because these games never end. And you can just play seasons upon seasons.
Yeah, or
if
franchise modes and everything else. Yeah.
So I just have put the Madden series off to the side, even though they come out on Game Pass and they're readily available and free, luckily. But they did hook me at one point. I was buying them every other year. I wouldn't get them every year, but I would go try to do every other year because at least there were some differences every couple of years.
Yeah, and I did buy a handful over the years. I want to say the last one I actually bought might have been like '09 because I usually buy them when they're dirt cheap.
Yeah,
because I do get my fix out of them. Like I really love Madden 2001 on PS2 because that was like an early PS2 showcase, and that's when they had the Madden. I think it was called Ultimate Team back then as well, but that had like those little trading card packs for players, right? But that was before it was like a monetized nightmare like it is now. Like that was just a collectible card game with you could build your team from. Now it's just like, hey, how much money do you have? How much, what team do you want?
Yeah, you didn't spend money on them back then.
Yeah. So again, my relation to this is like, I may not be a big fan of football, but also I really appreciate the history of Madden because it is significant for sports games in general. And just what it started like in the 90s with the series and where it's been now, like it looks great and everything, but again, it just doesn't click. But again, it's my cheater edition.
Yeah, it was very impressive back in the day. I remember not liking it so much on Super Nintendo. Like, I don't think they had very good outings on that. It was definitely a Sega powerhouse and really propelled the Genesis. And like you said, it pioneered football games. They were really starting to get it more right than other versions.
Yeah, and really, NFL 2K probably would not exist if it weren't for Madden either, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing is I love NFL 2K, but it would not exist if Madden hadn't done everything beforehand.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Ducey, your next choice.
This is going to be another one that just hits you right in the soul. It's Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, this one is a soul sucker.
And I want to like start off by saying it's not because of the terrible launch that it had, because when I played it first, I didn't have a past generation version. I had the current like Series X version. So there wasn't really that many glitches or anything like that. There was one guy who like T-posed in a corner on me. That was it. For me though, I literally don't understand why I don't like this.
Knowing you, I don't understand why you don't like this.
I do not know why. I can't express on this podcast right now why, but it just really hasn't hooked me. Like, I enjoy Keanu Reeves as a character in this. I enjoy his character, like, in your head, talking to you and everything. I like the aspect that you get to choose your character's background story, and it even has, like, a little prequel thing, like basically the training missions.
Yeah, the beginning of the game is a little bit different based on if you're a corpo, which is like basically like a corporate whore like many of us, or if you're like sort of, you grew up in the sort of like the deserts kind of thing. Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, that's unique for a lot of these first person games and everything. And then I don't know, I get into it for a certain amount of time and then things open up and I'm just like frozen with choice. And I've also noticed that like on some missions they really want you to be stealthy or they allow you to be, and I want to do that, and then it doesn't work out so well for me.
You do have to level at that point, because I do like stealth a lot, but you do have to kind of spec that way. And when was the last time you had played this? Do you recall?
It was right before that, the Idris Elba was in?
Phantom Liberty.
Yeah, it was right before that came out and right before the update that like overhauled everything.
Okay, I was going to say, because there was an overhaul update that was significant. Like I played through this. So I guess I'll talk about my history with the game.
Yeah.
But I bought this at launch in December 2020. I had a PS5 at the time. So that version was not as compromised as playing it on a PS4 or a base Xbox One. So I played through the game. I kind of rushed through it because it was a mess. Like I ran into some glitches and I just wasn't into it. But I love the story. So I finished it. It was like 20 hours. Then I waited a solid 2.5 years to where by this time they had major updates. They had overhauled the leveling system. They overhauled this little cybernetic implants.
Yeah,
implant system, and they basically overhauled the entire game. And then the Phantom Liberty expansion had also come out. So I restarted the game from scratch on PS5. It looks amazing now. It's like the ultimate Blade Runner world I want to be in a game.
Yeah.
And then the story was it completely hooked me because also every side character and a lot of the side stories all are really meaty and substantial, which is again is a signature of CD Projekt Red, which I'll talk about in a later game, which is why it didn't click for me, right? But Cyberpunk for me, I must have put in like 70 hours because I did all the major side missions in the main game, beat the game all over again. And then I did Phantom Liberty, which was an even more awesome experience with Idris Elba and the story there. So yeah, I'm shocked that you didn't like this game, and it sucks because it's like you can't articulate why you don't like it, why it didn't click. But at the same time, it's like it's hard to articulate that too because there's so much to like, and you're like, I don't know why I don't like this.
I think while I was playing some sections, and like I said, it was before the main overhaul, which sucks too because I had restarted from scratch twice. But the second time was right before that overhaul, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to restart a third time.
That's why I didn't start it over.
Yeah, with all this new stuff. So that really kicked me in my butt, and I'm like, I don't want to bother. But up until that point, I think going through my head while I was playing certain levels and certain missions, I'm like flashing back to games like Deus Ex or even Dead Island or Dishonored was a good one too. Where I'm like, I want to do certain things, and this game in particular isn't letting me do what I could do in those other games. Yeah. So maybe I just want to go play those other games.
Yeah, you're looking for more of the immersive sim experience, which this game does well, but it's not an immersive sim first, right? It's more of an RPG first, and then there's immersive elements to it, but it's not intent on giving you full agency like Deus Ex would. But it does give you a lot of options because you can spec into certain ways on your tree, and I think it's cheaper to respec now, which is great. And the implants cost a lot less because that was the thing is like, when I beat it the first time when it launched, those implants were useless. They cost a ton of money you couldn't earn. Yeah. And they really make a difference. So I played through most of the game with like bare bones and like the same weapon for like the last 6 hours.
And I was starting to do that too. When you had told me about that, something clicked in my head. I'm like, hey, I'm actually doing that, and I didn't realize it.
Yeah, which you don't want that in a game like this. But again, with the updates and everything, it's a worthwhile experience. It totally makes sense why someone would not want this at launch or even the first year, because it took like 2 or 3 years to get good.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one I hope you'll give another chance. I've even considered giving another chance because it's on Switch too, and it's cross-save, so I could play through again and go back and forth between PS5 and Switch too. So, I don't know if I'll get through it again, but it's there.
Yep.
It's worthwhile. Yeah. So I guess with that, I'll kind of carry the momentum from CD Projekt Red, and I'll talk about the one that I really am dying that I loved, and that's The Witcher 3.
Oh, yeah.
I've restarted this 3 times at least. I played it on PS4 shortly after it came out, and when it was like dirt cheap on the Game of the Year edition, I think I got it for like $10. I restarted on PS5, and I restarted on PC because it was dirt cheap there, and it looks amazing on PC. And every single time I put like, I don't know, 5, 10, 12 hours, and I'm just like bored. Like the world's really massive. I really can't care about the story. I'm not totally sure what's going on. Like it's something with, you're playing as Geralt. I think it's called a Geralt. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Geralt. Yeah. And you get a message from your former lover often somewhere, and you have to like go rescue her or something like that. But the combat here is just fine. Like it's really basic, like weak attack, strong attack. You have magic attacks that you have like on a radial wheel. And it just doesn't click for me. Like I usually love this kind of combat versatility, and it just doesn't feel fluid here. His dodge roll kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times with these open world games, there's times where I'm just kind of stuck where I don't know where I really want to go, what I should be doing. And I get lost and just end up like foraging for herbs or something so I can craft a salve or something like that. Or I'll do a side mission that is kind of fun, then I get a crappy reward from. Like, well, I just spent an hour doing this thing, and like I got 100 gold, which I could have got from just stealing from somebody or killing another enemy. And it sucks because some of the side stories are really good. Like I found a story where this wife was looking for her husband who was missing, especially at night, and it turns out like he got bitten by like a werewolf, so you have to kill him. And I hear so much about how these expansion that I think is called Blood and Wine is like this sort of vampire kind of story. It's really good.
Cool.
And it sucks because this game looks gorgeous. The voice acting is really good. Like the production is like just top tier quality, and the story just can't hook me. And it sucks. I've tried 3 or 4 times. There's so much to do and so much fun in this game. It's just nothing's kept me more than like 10 or 12 hours.
It also led to a very decent show, which my mom loves.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I remember you telling me your mom was well into the show.
Yeah, she's never played any of the games, and I also couldn't like help her out with anything that was going on because I was like, I have no idea what that's following. I haven't followed. I played The Witcher 2 once. I owned it for a brief time. I think it was on 360.
It was. I remember when you got that way back.
Yeah.
That was one where I had heard how good that was. I just never played it on 360. I just never got to it.
And I played it for a little bit, and I was like, oh, this is fun. It's even more... It seemed a little more focused to me than like Oblivion at the time or Skyrim or one of those. And then I got to a certain part in it where like things really started to open up, and I was learning even more things that I could do crafting wise and setting traps and hunting and all this other stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is starting to freeze me with choice. So for some reason, something else must have come out, and I started playing that, and that was a little more faster paced, and then I never went back to Witcher 2 for whatever reason.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened with Witcher 3, because the beginning of the game is really great. Like, you're kind of taught how to hunt, which is kind of a gimmick of the game. Like, so you have this sort of boss fight with this griffin at the beginning of the game where you have to set like a trap and then slay it, because it's basically sort of like a contract for, I think, a nearby town. So it starts off great. It's just... I don't know, like sometimes with these sort of, I don't know if you want to call it medieval, is that the proper sort of,
yeah, it's like,
I guess, theme for this?
High fantasy,
yeah.
type.
Like some of these just don't click with me. And it sucks because I really do enjoy what this game is doing. It's just, there's nothing there to compel me to sit there for, I think it's like 30, 40, 50 hours for this game, you know?
I thought it was even longer. I thought
it probably is even longer, yeah.
They
like
had a crazy amount of stuff. Like Witcher 3 took what Witcher 2 did and then ballooned it.
Exactly, yeah. And like one of my coworkers, he's played through it, not dozens, but he's played through it multiple times, even like on the hardest difficulty. And he's like, I just don't get why you don't like this. I'm like, I wish I did, James. I have no idea. I've tried 3 or 4 times. It's not there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which also leads me to my next series again. Another war series. This one is God of War.
Yeah, this one's even painful. You've had a lot of painful ones from me. So that's what I was telling you before we record. It's like the way I feel about like Witcher 3 and a couple of these games is how I think people would feel, or at least how I feel when I see like you put Cyberpunk on, where it's like, damn, like I wish you liked it for a good reason, you know?
This one, like I played the original way back on PS2, and I had some fun with it. It was a lot of hack and slash, didn't have to care about the story at all, even though there was a pretty decent story about revenge against gods. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And I was also like into Stargate at the time, which also focused heavily on fighting godlike creatures that took on the personas of old Earth gods. And for whatever reason, I did not... Oh, I do know. In God of War 1 for PS2, I got super stuck at something. And so that killed my interest in that original series.
That one did get pretty... Part 2 was really hard. Yeah.
And I remember I watched you play, or maybe it was your brother was playing God of War 3 one time. I went over to your house, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. It was like the first boss, and it was huge, and
it was probably
epic.
3. My brother was playing that one, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, that's amazing. And I don't want to play that one because I haven't played the first 2, and I probably won't play the first 2 because I can't finish them, which also then led into these new remakes where I enjoy the looks of them and what they're doing with the story and everything. And I know that it doesn't matter if you've played the original trilogy, like these are all new stories, but in my head it does matter. And I never played the originals. So I feel like I'm going to miss out on something no matter how many times people tell me I won't. And then, for whatever reason, I just don't get into it. Even though I do enjoy games like this, where it's just, over the shoulder, beat 'em up, go forward, follow the story. I mean, that's what Uncharted and Tomb Raider has been doing recently. But for some reason, I feel like I enjoy those characters more, where you're more human and not superpowered god.
Yeah, which is fair, because it all bases sort of like on the theme of the game or the setting, right? It's like Witcher 3 didn't click with me, but then if God of War isn't clicking for you, then that's totally fair, especially when you're trying to appreciate everything else.
Yeah.
So I love the God of War series. I'm more fond of like God of War 1 and 2 and then the reboots, because I played a little bit of 3. I didn't play... I forgot there was another one on PS3.
Wasn't there like a Chains of Olympus?
That was PSP, and I actually love that one. I did finish that one, actually. But there was another one that was, after that. But anyway, the reboot games are 2 of my favorite PS4, PS5 games, because they're total reboots, and everything that's sort of transpired before these games is sort of like Kratos' past life, so to speak. Like, he kind of references them like his past adventures in a sense, and now he has like a son, and his wife's passed away. And the story's really great because one of the stories is sort of like this pilgrimage to bring his wife's remains to, the altar of the gods or something like that. And you have Atreus, who's like his son, and he's growing with you as well. So the story is really great. I love the combat because it just feels really heavy and stocky. It's not so arcade-like the original games. But then it's like, I know, I was trying to get you to play this, and Randy was especially like, Deucey, they're on PS Plus now. He's trying to nudge you and everything.
I even have the first one on PS4.
I think I got that for you for Christmas one year. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think, I never popped it in. And I know now they're available on like a PS Plus or anything like that.
Yeah, they put them up, usually like a year after release or, but yeah, I think they're readily available on there. Yeah.
And I still just haven't dove into them. I also enjoy that the main voice actor for Kratos, he comes from the Stargate series.
That's right.
And he won an award for it. And I was like really happy for him for that. I was like, this is awesome.
He's really fantastic. Like he's a great Kratos.
But I still haven't gotten into it.
Yeah. They're pretty meaty games too. Like there's a lot of side stuff as well. But I mean, I think I probably put like 18 to 20 hours just to get through the main game. And that was with most side stuff, I would say, except for part 2. But this one's another one where it's like, damn, I really wish you liked this one. Yeah. One series I think that both of us can relate to certain respects because we definitely played the hell out of these early on, and then we kind of fell off and at different points. And for me, it began with Halo 3.
Oh, yeah.
So Halo 1, just one of the most influential games ever. We had that on one of our episodes. It's one of the greatest co-op experiences I had played, especially back then. It was totally unique. Halo 2, sort of the beginnings of console online multiplayer, even though Dreamcast had done before, this was the first that had been done right and at a grander scale.
For me, it felt more easily accessible.
It was 100% more accessible. Like the Dreamcast was ahead of its time, and it was also a time when we still had dial-up. Broadband wasn't so prevalent, so it was kind of a pain to play online, and there was a lot of lag.
Didn't you have to have like a separate adapter or something for that one?
No, it had the dial-up adapter, 56K modem built in, and then you did have to buy a broadband adapter if you had DSL or cable internet,
which I did not, and also I did not have the disposable income for that.
Exactly, yeah. So it was just problematic to see the least. But yes, Halo 2 was. I mean, we dumped hundreds of hours in that, whether it's locally with our friends in a LAN party or online. And then Halo 3 was just, the hype was even bigger than Halo 2 because I know there was a ton of hype for 2. Like we were glued to the internet watching videos and whatnot, and it, single player didn't really meet expectations, but multiplayer didn't matter. It beat out everything else. So I was really excited for Halo 3. I mean, everyone was. I was working the midnight launch at Circuit City. We played through most of the game that night, actually.
we waited in line, and it wasn't like a 3-hour difference. It was midnight, even on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So we waited all night for that, got it. Played it till like 3 or 4 in the morning.
It was about 4 because I know I had a web design class at I had to be there at 8. I was like, I gotta stop, and I'm pretty sure I got a text from you guys like, oh, we beat it last night. There was only like a few levels left.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't overnight. We all finally went to sleep, and then at like 7 or 8 in the morning, we all woke up again.
Oh, okay. I thought you played through the whole time.
No, and then continued on and beat it right away towards the early hours of the morning.
Yeah. So after you guys had finished the main campaign, I really didn't play it again because. When I played through the campaign myself, I thought, for one, it was really boring because it was also a copy and paste of itself. Like, this was a time in 360 where some games were sort of retreading the same levels and just kind of in a reverse order. Like Devil May Cry 4 is an example where they just copy and pasted the first half of the levels over again, and now you're playing as Dante, and maybe some of the arrangements are different.
Oh, weird.
And that's what Halo 3 felt like. And plus, the story at this point, truthfully, like I wasn't terribly invested in Halo 1 story as much, especially when the Flood got introduced, and 2 even less so.
Yeah.
And by 3, I was kind of hoping that it would do something for me, and it just didn't. So
I think the thing that 3 had going for it was that like 2 had promised you taking the fight to Earth.
Yeah.
And it didn't. It like blue balled you when it came to that because it ended on a weird ass cliffhanger. And then 3 finally went into that. And so everybody was a little more accepting of 3 because of that. But like you said, I remember playing it that first night and then maybe one other time years later with Mike, and that was about it for the story mode of that.
Yeah, so I could have dealt with that being a miss, and then multiplayer. I wish I could pinpoint what it was, but just didn't hook us. What was it?
Call of Duty 4 came out.
Oh, that's right. You're right. It's right there. Yeah,
like Halo 3 came out. We waited for that, and then all of a sudden the beta for Call of Duty 4 came out, and it was something unique. And we immediately switched over, and then the beta went away. They were like, okay, wait a few months until this comes out. And then, like, 2 months later, Call of Duty 4 came out, and we were like,
that's right. We
Halo
really
what?
That. Yeah. So I think that's also part of it, too. But even then, like, I was just kind of unrolled by multiplayer because I had played the beta for Halo 3, and I was like, all right, this is it's Halo.
Yeah.
And then once they came out, I know there was a lot of changes with like how the gear worked and like the melee worked, and even the maps just didn't really click with me for a reason. And I think this was the case where I had hyped the game so much after how much fun we had with 2 that I didn't care. And now you mentioned Call of Duty 4, which I always forget, it was literally like 2 months after this. It was all over. Like, we never looked back at Halo 3. Like, we might have played multiplayer once or twice after that. And I played it again on the Halo collection, and it's just, I was like, this is a weak point. And for so many people, this feels like it's a huge thing. Like, it's still a big thing for people. Like, they have so much fun for 3. And I was just like, yeah, this is kind of, to me, this is kind of the beginning of end of Halo, because since 3, I really haven't cared about the series as much. I played through 4, and we did play 4 multiplayer a little bit online. Like, it wasn't the fully addicted experience like before. Like, we played quite a bit, but it just never was what Halo 2 was to me. So since then, I've just not cared for Halo. Halo Infinite, just a massive disappointment across the board for me, you know? So it's just, Halo never really captured what made the first 2 games great for me.
Yeah, it's funny, when I played on the collection, I played 3. A lot of those maps, I was like, oh, I don't remember this being 3, because I remember the map pretty well, and I was like, wow, I thought this was like either later or earlier. So I guess I did play a lot of 3 in that short amount of time between release and then Call of Duty 4. But then, yeah, that totally shut down with Call of Duty. The thing that saved 4 for me was they switched over the controls to Call of Duty controls.
That's right.
And they made the multiplayer a little bit more like Call of Duty, just with, you
had loadouts for...
Yeah.
Yeah, you could set up different loadouts.
You had loadouts, but you still had the same guns from the Halo series that you knew and loved. So it wasn't totally Call of Duty-esque, but it was leaning more towards that. So that actually made Halo 4 last a little longer with me. I don't remember a thing about the story, even though
neither.
I know I played through it. And then, like you, I totally fell off. I never played 5, either multiplayer or the story. And then when Infinite came out, because the multiplayer came out before the story, I never played the story, and the multiplayer was almost starting to hook me again. It was
pretty fun.
Yeah.
We did have some fun with it.
I was like, hey, this is starting to feel like the classics. But then they barely had any maps or anything for it.
I want to say there was 3.
Yeah.
There might have been 1 or 2 big team battles and 1 or 2, standard size maps. And there was no real progression. It was in a very garbage state. And I always say, like, I think it was released 2021. Microsoft wanted to release it 2020. I'm like, what would you have released a year before this if this is what you gave us
if you
before the campaign, right? Yeah, like, what the hell would we have gotten? And then the campaign came out. I played it on Game Pass, and, they did this open world thing, which was really just sort of, what's the one we're looking for here? It's more just, it wasn't totally necessary because it was bland, barren. There's like these skirmishes you can get into on the overmap. And then really where it shined was what made Halo shine to begin with, was when you get into the main missions and everything's sort of confined and it's really focused. That's when it was really good. The open world stuff was just totally secondary and just kind of a waste of time for me. So, I played 5 a little bit, and it's just Halo it's missed the mark. And then sometimes I'll pick up multiplayer on Infinite because it is kind of fun and is free to play. But it's just, it feels different when you're not with your buddies. Like, we kind of grew up with this, right? It just doesn't feel the same. There's so many other games we end up playing.
And then, ironically, like, there was a big gap of time where I didn't play any Call of Duties after probably the original Modern Warfare 3 or so.
Yeah, we fell off for a long time. We were kind of picking them up here and there. But
And so, like, that would have been a good time for Halo 4 and Halo 5 to come in. But it didn't, really. And then Halo Infinite was announced and it was coming back. The problem was we had just picked up the reboot of Modern Warfare.
That's right.
A couple years earlier, and then Warzone came out, and we were just hooked on all of that. Modern Warfare 2, the Black Ops Cold War, like Call of Duty hooked us again, once again stealing us away from Halo.
That's actually ironic. I didn't even think about that, but you're absolutely right. We were totally invested in Call of Duty at this time, which we had fallen off the horse long ago, and all it took was Warzone and like proper reboot, and that was it. So it's kind of ironic that Call of Duty and Halo were roughly around the same time, and we still went with Call of Duty. Where it was like almost 13 years later, where it was 13, 14 years later. Yeah. Next one on your list, Ducey.
Let's see. I will kind of pair these together because they're similar yet different. And I do understand the love for them, but I want to put Overwatch and Fortnite on here because, like, Overwatch is kind of the pioneer of, what do you call them, hero shooters?
Yeah, I'd say team hero shooters.
Yeah. I know it's kind of taking what Team Fortress did and really popularizing it to the masses. And I played a little bit of it, and I just couldn't get hooked on it because I felt like I was already behind. I didn't get it day one or anything. And because all the characters are different in that, I didn't know who I wanted to play as. I didn't know who I wanted to practice as. And I didn't feel like I had the time to choose, because you get thrown into matches and then you're immediately getting killed. And I'm like, I'm not learning this way. There was no real single player to let you learn, except for like a training mode.
Yeah, there's a pretty basic training mode where sort of like a free roam thing where it's like you can test out your abilities, but it's not really practical either.
Yeah.
It doesn't really say like you should use this ability in this instance. It's really just kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah, so I just couldn't get hooked, but I do appreciate what it does. Like during 2020 lockdown and everything, I had a roommate that was big into it, and I could hear them playing it with their group of friends like we would play Warzone. And I understand how community driven it is. And I haven't really heard much on Overwatch 2, like if people migrated over, they had to. I know
they were
that.
forced, which is crazy. Yeah.
But I don't know if it's really kept up. I know Marvel Rivals was starting to give it a little run for its money. I don't know how well that's kept up. But like I said, also paired with this around the same time was the rise of Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it has inspired giant battle royales, which that's what created Warzone and that's what we love, I really could not get into Fortnite.
Yeah, so I put Fortnite on my list with PUBG, and I could also put Overwatch on there too, because I played Overwatch 1 and 2, and I put I put some time into it, but not like a ton, because I'm usually playing solo. And that game really does matter with, it's a team-based hero shooter. So you have to have teammates who, for one, understand at least to some capacity what they're doing.
Yeah.
So you can contribute to a win. And then it sucks when you have awful teammates, because then you have the whole team not on your back. You're just trying to survive and like not lose so pitifully. So I think this is also an instance, at least with Overwatch, where I feel like the theme matters again, right? Where we talked about like what was the other game we were talking about here, where the theme kind of hooks you, like Cyberpunk or something, right?
Yeah.
Where I was playing Marvel Rivals for a little bit more because it was Marvel. I'm more familiar with the characters, and I actually got more into that than I did with Overwatch, even in the short time I did play Marvel Rivals, because it was a lot more fun, and it didn't feel like I was totally crippled by the other teammates. You know? But when I did play Overwatch, I did appreciate some aspects of it. Like, being a big fighting game player, I love that there's multiple characters with different abilities. Mm-hmm. But then it sucks when you're trying to find proper synergy, because you also have a proper makeup. Because in Overwatch, especially, depending on the mode, like I think there's a role lock, but you should have at least one healer or two, a support character, and like a big old brute kind of Hulk thing.
Well, it's funny, like Overwatch speaks to me on a certain level where I want to like it, and I want to have a gang that each has different characters, and we all know our roles, and we all co-op on something, because we do play a lot of Warzone or multiplayer Call of Duty, but like that, everybody's pretty much the same depending on your play style, and we all go off and do our own thing, even if like we do sometimes team up for the greater good, but it's not like different powers complementing each other, which I want. I want a big co-op game like that, and then it just never really comes together.
Yeah, and that's kind of my criticism of it too. It's just, and also there's not so many modes either. Like there's only a handful of game types, so you kind of get monotonous, and it's like, you might jump out of a lobby because you're losing and get into another lobby where you might be losing anyway. So this one I feel like, I'm in the same boat where it's like, it really does feel like you have to have at least some sort of co-op buddy with you, a couple at least, to make it worthwhile and fun, because it does get very boring on your own. I always say I could sit there and play fighting games for hours, one-on-one, team-based, whatever, but like Overwatch, which has like a fighting game aspect to it with multiple characters and makeup, I'm just like, I'm bored after like a couple matches. And Fortnite, I'm in the same boat as you, where I've tried multiple times, and I'll lump this with my choice, PUBG, Players Unknown Battleground, which might have been one of the earliest battle royales. Maybe you could say it originated the battle royale format. I'm not really sure, but they both kind of launched around the same time. I think PUBG caught fire first, and when I played that, it was one of the ugliest, unoptimized games I played on the Xbox One original, because if you recall, it ran like garbage on PC.
Yeah.
And they ported it to Xbox One. That was like the hook on there. And a friend had it, and I was like, this is freaking garbage. Like, you can't mantle, you can't vault. It looks like garbage. It runs like garbage.
It looked like PS2 era stuff.
Yeah, and yet it's one of the most popular games of 2017, 2018, and still is being played today. Like, there were millions of people playing that game just trying to get to survive to number one. And that's ultimately, thank God, Warzone came out for us, because we kind of got that fix and that sort of, I guess, hook where we want to be first and, have like that have a team makeup where we outlast everyone. But PUBG and Fortnite. Fortnite, I didn't like the theme, like sort of the aesthetic of it.
Yeah.
And none of the guns really feel fun to use. And, part of it's like, I'm sure it's changed now, but back then it was just really barren and open. Like I was just kind of running endlessly for nothing. You know?
I didn't like the idea of that building mechanic where like...
that was also the worst thing for sure.
You shoot one guy and all of a sudden he has this giant fort.
Yeah, that's right. That turned me off immediately before they add the no build mode for sure. Yeah. And PUBG, again, like this is me being overly critical, but it's like I think it's an ugly game. It's not fun, and yet again, I'm in the minority because millions of people playing it, they enjoy it, and I'm like sitting here like I'm shooting at somebody and it's clearly not hitting them, so I'm not going to play this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look at it, what it pioneered. There's so many copycats now of battle royale games.
Yeah, they definitely have. They're the grandfathers of like monetizing cosmetics and free to play and battle passes and all that stuff, which is a whole different discussion for whether it works. But you don't have to buy any of these things. That's the magic of being an adult. You don't have to buy anything you don't want. One game I'm going to put on this list. This one's, I don't know if this one was like a mainstream thing. This one's definitely more of like a cult kind of game. Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, okay.
I've tried multiple times over the years to get in this. I enjoyed Fallout 3 enough. I got tired of that because one thing I didn't like about that game is how much of the underground subway system you have to navigate to get to certain areas. I hate that there's crumbled buildings in front of me. I have to go through this very labyrinth-like subway system to get to it. But Fallout New Vegas I had avoided at the time because I've heard of all the bad reviews on 360. Like it was buggy, it ran poorly, and you have to get through a lot of bad stuff to get to the good stuff. So I've waited years and years to play it. I got it on PC where it doesn't fare much better. And then one of my buddies set up like all these mods for me. Like he set up his package and I was able to install it. And my problem with this game is I want to love it because I hear how great the story is and how choices matter and all these sort of check marks of things that I want in a game. And then when I play it, I'm just like, I go to a city, I'm like killed instantly. I'm like, where did that come from for one? And why am I dying in 2 shots and it takes like 30 to kill them, but they're like level 2?
Yeah.
So this game is more of like a mechanical thing where it's like, I want to enjoy it, but there's a lot of roadblocks in the way that get in my enjoyment where I'm like, I just don't even want to play this anymore. It's not fun.
I think I talked about it on here. I tried to fire that up again recently and it did not go well. Like back when I first played it, when it first came out, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an extension of Fallout 3. I didn't realize that it was by the original Fallout creators.
Obsidian.
Yeah, compared to what Fallout 3 was. And I got fairly far into it. I actually got into Vegas proper, but that's because I had a strategy guide to help me. And it told me, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. So when I started it up again recently, I forgot about all of that. And I was just like you. I got to the first town, second town, you might say, and immediately killed because of something I did back in the first town.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is that connected?
And it's like I wasn't even in the sort of a visual range of an enemy, and yet there's 2 people suddenly following me. They know exactly where I'm at. I can't run.
Yeah.
I don't have enough bullets, and my gun's garbage.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I feel like with this game, I have to play differently to kind of get through it and enjoy it. But it sucks that I feel like I have to go through trial by fire in the worst way possible to be like, okay, don't go there, go here. Oh, wait, there's a bug that can kill you or something. So it's definitely a flawed game. I think the people who love and are the diehards for this game will say it's a flawed game. But it really sucks because this is another game that probably could benefit from a remake of some sort, or at least some sort of modernization, because it is really rough to play, whether you're playing it on PC with a bunch of mods, because it's still rooted in the original code base. So they can sort of, put all the makeup and make all these changes. It's still going to be clunky in a lot of regards.
Did I hear that Fallout 3 is getting a remake or remaster?
I've heard rumors of that.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't really care for. I wish New Vegas got the remake.
I'll play either one. Like, this one isn't on my list. Because despite the fact that I hate that I got killed in that city like that, I have to dig out my strategy guide and then I can play through it. What I did put on this list though was the follow-up to 4, which is Fallout 76. What the hell were they thinking?
Yeah, so this was a nightmarish mess.
Yeah.
I played 40 hours of it at launch, and it was not a good launch, but I put that time only because I was playing co-op.
Yeah.
But I could totally understand why you didn't like this one. Go ahead, dude.
I from what they said when it was going to launch, I immediately didn't like it and didn't want to play it because I was like, I don't want my Fallout to be like totally based on other players online.
Like a community-driven Fallout. Yeah.
No, I want a single-player story because they do really good stories. But then I recently got into it because they changed a lot and they finally put in NPCs. And so you didn't have to rely on the community or people online.
And also they added a proper story for one thing. That's another thing they added like a year or two later.
Oh, one of those tentpole things for a video game.
Yeah, or one of those temple things for a game called Fallout.
Yeah. So I was getting into that and everything, but there's just was something there that wasn't hooking me as well as Fallout 4 did. And I just sort of fell off of it. I think it didn't feel as immersive because of the way you have to play, because you're always online in a lobby technically with other people around the map, even if you're not doing PvP with them. So like things like even the smallest things as like the in-game date would reset and it would just throw my immersion off and everything. And I remember one time I had a base built up. It was kind of a rusty shack with one bed, but hey, it was my home. And then all of a sudden I get in and they said like I couldn't be there anymore because of like other people that were in the area. And I'm like, well, then what the hell did I do all that for? Yeah. I know it's like folded up in my pocket right now and I can just put it somewhere else, but I didn't want to be somewhere else. I wanted to be at that area.
Well, and also you have to place everything all over again, because I've had that happen before. Yeah. It's like it'll say, oh, we had to move you because of whatever the case was. It doesn't matter. And it says, you have everything's refunded to you, so to speak. And it's like, well, I don't want to set all that crap up again.
Yeah.
I don't want to rebuild this house or this little shack I have.
Yeah, I only have so much time. I wanted to play a little further into like some mission, but instead I'm rebuilding my fort.
Yeah. I will say, all the criticisms of this game aside, I'm really impressed that, this launched in 2018. It's 7 years later, and they're still supporting it with like a ton of new content, new seasonal stuff. I kind of did the same thing really, where it's like, I really want to enjoy this game, and there's times where I'll restart it and get into it, and, I do get in the rhythm of it, and it's just, with a lot of these crafting games, like, some of these games, you really have to dedicate your time to just this one game. You can't be playing like 2 or 3 other games, or, some people spend like hundreds of hours, thousands of hours in this, and it's like, I might have, a few hours throughout the week with everything else I'm playing, plus just being an adult. So it's like, I feel like I get nowhere because I'm spending so much time like crafting, gathering resources, trying to do side quests or main quest stuff. And I just hit a point where it's like, I just don't have time for this. Like I need like almost like a full-time job dedicated to this or something,
Yep. Like streaming it online for money or something.
Yeah. If only. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we go through a few more here, Juicy. We got some heavy hitters on here too. So I'll start with one heavy hitter for me, and this one really pains me to say, but it's Red Dead Redemption 2.
Now this hits me.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed Red Dead Redemption. I don't think I finished it. I think I got near the end of that one back on 360. I love the Undead Nightmare. That was one of the most awesome Western zombie DLCs.
It was so weird but fun.
Yeah, and this, Red Dead Redemption 2 has sold, I don't know, at least 20 million copies. I don't know how many it's sold. It's sold a ton of copies. One of the most critically acclaimed games on the PS4, PC, and Xbox at the time, probably high 90s on Metacritic. And I've restarted this game again 3 times. So I started it back on when it came out on PS4. I bought it when it launched. I got like 20 hours in, and I was just like, God, this is just so painfully slow. Like every little thing feels like it takes forever. And then the thing that really was getting under my craw here was how it doesn't respect your time for certain instances. Like it has these really gorgeous animations for every little thing. Mm-hmm. So you might kill some KKK Klansmen, which is always satisfying, right? But then I have to pat all of them down individually. It's like an animation. It's like 3-4 seconds long. He's like patting their pockets, their chest, whatever. And it's like, I don't want to sit here for 6 enemies to get 2 pieces of gold or whatever. And then the story just really never took off. And this is kind of my criticism when someone says watch a show, it gets good after season 3.
Oh yeah,
right. There's I had friends say you're almost at the point chapter 3 or 4 when it picks up. I'm like, I'm 20 hours in, it hasn't picked up.
Yeah,
when is this story going to get interesting to me? And when is the pace going to pick up? Because you could do everything you want in this game. It's like the ultimate Western simulator. You could hunt. You could. I think I don't know if you could build a base or one. I don't know, but there's just so much side stuff you could do just, happening about the world.
Yeah.
And yet I cannot stick to this game.
You get a sort of a home base, story wise. You can always go back to this safe area that has a campfire and tents and everything. And I, in the story, just got to a point where we have packed up and moved the base camp to somewhere new. And, while in doing that, I also got to the point where down in the bottom corner of the map, there's an entire city. I had been playing this game for so long, I thought you were just out in the wilderness the entire time.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I got into this city. I mean, it's very rudimentary, but it's got a port. There are ships you can run around on. There's a whole city where you can go into buildings. And I was like, holy crap, this totally just opened up even more than I imagined. But I'm hooked. I really enjoyed this game. It did start out slow. I restarted it about 3 times. And on the 3rd time, it finally caught. And I don't know how I did it, but I powered through a lot of the main story missions. And that sped things up. And now I was really starting to follow the story and everything. And it's also one of those games where I can go back to it at any point, and even though it's been so long, I somehow start to remember things that had happened. So
it does become very familiar because I restarted it 3 times, like I said too, and like the parts I do replay over, very familiar, even though I have not touched them in like 3-4 years.
So I'm like, oh, okay, I remember this character. I remember what we were doing. I remember going off and saving this person. So now I can jump right back in. Other games, like big RPGs and things, if I go away for too long, I do have to restart because I'm like, I am totally lost.
And yeah, and this, so, I did restart on PC because it looks gorgeous on PC. Like it's a 7-year-old game, and it looks absolutely amazing. Like it just the graphical fidelity looks amazing on its own, but it runs really well. So that's what I was like, well, maybe, I'll give it another shot. Like it's been like 6 years, I'll give it another shot. So I really would like to try this one again because I don't want to dismiss it because I do want to experience it. It's just, one of my complaints about some open world games is it's just too big. And sometimes that's where I got with Red Dead Redemption 2. It's like, there's so much vastness and just so much stuff I could do. And then, it's not like in GTA where you have a plane, you can fly everywhere either. You have horses here.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm traveling 10 miles away, I'm traveling 10 miles away.
No matter how much you make your horse run, it's not as fast as a supercar.
Yeah. And I don't remember if there's an autopilot in here. I can't remember if it had that. Does it have it in there? Okay. So at least that might help, but it sucks because this is a bigger one where it's like, it's me for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like it's something that's not hooking me, and I wish it did because I do enjoy the Western theme. I love everything about this game. It's just nothing can keep me hooked for more than 20 hours on this thing. It's like apparently like a 50, 60, 70-hour game supposedly. It's like, God, there's so much here.
Yeah, I don't even know technically what chapter I'm on, but I know I'm still have a good ways to go.
Yeah, it's rough. So, I'd say this is probably the biggest game where it's just like a miss for me. But it sucks because it's probably one of the best rated games on this entire list between both of us.
Yeah.
All right, Ducey, we go through a couple more here. Which ones you want to dive into that didn't click for us?
Well, probably didn't click for me more so than you, but I don't like a certain genre of game now.
This one I think is totally valid to put on here though.
Yes,
I agree with you
because you know me.
Yeah,
and it's the Soulsborne games. Named because of Dark Souls and Bloodborne.
Yeah, Demon Souls is like sort of the originator. Yeah, and then they had Dark Souls, and then there's Bloodborne, and now there's Elden Ring, there's Sekiro, there's other companies have done them. It's spawned its own genre to say the least.
Yeah, and I'm impressed with that. I will give it its props for that, and I understand why people love these games and have their favorites and their dislikes. But I just know I never want to step into one because you know me and you know how I can get with certain bosses and things that like hold me back or get me stuck on certain areas. This entire series or genre is designed for that.
Exactly.
And I will throw controllers if I have to play that.
And I don't blame you because there's a lot of discussion with these games about difficulty options. Frankly, my perspective is you should always have some sort of accessibility option. And I don't mean like for, disabilities or anything. I mean like some accessible options so that people can experience your game.
Yeah.
It may not be what you intend, but for God's sake, just put some easier mode in these games so someone like you can be like, yeah, I experienced it. The story's great, or, I was able to appreciate the world, but it sucks when the hard stop could literally be the first boss, or even like in Demon Souls, I remember like the first sort of elite enemy is problematic for some people, right? And it's like, you really have to commit time to the combat to learn that. But you're right. These games are designed to be brutally difficult, and that's it. There's no, you don't come out of it feeling any better. You're like, yeah, I'm satisfied I did that, but Jesus, that was 20 tries when it should have been 3.
And I'm not saying that like I just want an easy game because I really enjoy Cuphead, and that was definitely designed
that was brutal
for difficulty and things like that. So I don't know. It's just something about this where I think also the genre of it doesn't catch me because I can find high fantasy and demons and gargoyles and things in tons of other
That's
games.
also true. Yeah. So I enjoy the Souls games and Bloodborne and all those, but I don't enjoy them as much as like a Devil May Cry or these other sort of difficult action games. Because in here, it's there's a lot of stamina management. The parry is tricky, like you kind of have to learn it. Whereas for me, I enjoy those Devil May Cry type games or Stellar Blade because you have more control over the parrying system. It's a little bit more, what's more like for impactful, right? So it's like you can do it in an instant. You can almost cancel out your attack and do a parry. So the combat's in my control. So if I lose that difficult boss, it just means I have to learn how to parry attack or defend. Here it's like, if you mistime it, like if you mistime your roll, in a lot of instances, you might have a giant boss who has like a really big hitbox, and even rolling through it, you'll get hit because, your hitbox will not be as invincible for that duration of the attack.
And then he just juggles you.
And he juggles you, yeah. And then I'll see speedrunners who are like, oh yeah, you just, max out this one stat, have no health, and they can do the killing with no hits. I'm like, I would love to get to that point, but I also understand you've spent hundreds of hours to get to that point. Like, I don't want to spend hundreds of hours to learn how to kill these bosses,
I think what would hook me is, like we were talking about the Diablo type of games and then Marvel. If Marvel or something came into a Soulsborne type game, I would be down to try it.
I feel like that would be the one to say, like, okay, dip your toe in it.
Yeah.
And if you really don't like it, then we know for sure you don't like this genre.
But I need something that will hook me so that I don't mind losing if I still want to invest in the character and the story.
Yeah, yeah. And this thing is, like, the lore here is really good. Like, they're not overly descriptive with their stories. Like, I know a lot of it's based on notes you find and just sort of the world itself. Like, there's a lot of markings of history and whatnot. But again, like, you have to get through the difficult parts to really appreciate that and get to that. And even for me, like, I get to a point where, like, I just quit. Like, Randy and Vito have beaten Elden Ring after like 100-something hours. Yeah. And I got to like the second or third boss. I'm like, I'm not terrible at these games, but I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And I restarted and I still get destroyed. So
yeah, I feel like if I have to fight one boss 20 times, I'm going to totally forget what the story was.
That's totally fair.
And then I'm enraged.
Yeah. The first boss could do that to you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, Ducey. So I guess we could. I'll finish with one that's kind of both on our list here. It's the Destiny series.
Oh,
1 and 2. So
the follow up to Halo.
Yeah. So we've covered a lot of games, and I think this one is interesting because it is a follow up to Halo. I remember when this was announced, I wasn't sure how to feel about it because it was basically just like a looter shooter that they said we're going to be dedicating 10 years of support to this. I don't think Destiny 1 got 10 years of support. I don't think so. I'm not totally sure.
I feel like it got more support than I was expecting.
It did. It definitely did. But it wasn't like the 10-year plan that they did. Then Destiny 2 came out. And it sucks with these games because they play pretty well. Like, they definitely feel like Halo. And even some of the tones feel like Halo. Like with the sci-fi and like the weapon designs. Mm-hmm. It feels like Halo in a different universe. And yet I cannot get into them at all. The story is just kind of And then on top of it, there's just so much crap on the screen at once that it feels like you're well behind if you start this any point that was the beginning.
Also, when you talk about the story, like there are aspects that have shut down.
That's also true. That's probably the most offensive part of this game.
Where like literally the intro to the game is no longer available. You're now just playing DLC.
Bungie has pulled like a Disney where they put certain expansions. They call it a vault. I think it's called the same thing like Disney. But even if you paid for it, you can't access it. So what the worst thing about it is like you might have paid for these expansions throughout time, and they're just saying, can't play it anymore. Enjoy what we give you. And this is definitely like a live service game, and I think that's interesting for us. Is like there's a few games we put on the list that are live service, right? Which maybe sort of a generational thing, but for us, it's like that kind of tells us why we don't like those games. Like you have to really be playing them. You have to dedicate all your time to them. This, like, it's just, there's nothing that can hook me on it. And then, like, I'll go through, because it's free to play for the most part, and I'll go through and kind of feel like I should pick it up again and try it. And it's just, I'll fight like a horde of enemies. I'm kind of bored. Like, the shooting is kind of stiff. Like, it feels fine, but not terribly great.
Like you said, it's very Halo-esque still. And that was different than the Call of Duty. That's why we kind of branched off towards that. But I wanted to like this. I was very skeptical when it first came out because Destiny 1 didn't sound like it was going to be very, very much like Halo. It was going to be, like you said, this live service thing. And I was like, ooh. But when I saw it being played, I was like, oh, okay, I get this. And I remember I had a coworker who was really into it. This was like his thing while I was talking about Call of Duty. He was always talking about Destiny. And I think I might have even tried it once. Like literally once. And I was like, oh, okay, I killed some things. I got some loot. That was it. I'm done.
That's kind of the flow of it too. I mean, that's, it's sort of like its own first person shooter MMO in a way, right? Where it's just, you're kind of going through these hordes of enemies. You might complete some side events. You might get some gear that's garbage. And that's kind of the routine, and it's just, it didn't click. I didn't play with friends. Like, I didn't try this multiplayer, so I don't know if that would improve things. I get the impression it probably wouldn't. Because a lot of these instances, especially with a lot of the games we talked about today, like the multiplayer ones, it's like, we can usually play something we do enjoy.
Yeah.
We don't have to force ourselves to try to enjoy this.
I think, though, some of them, because we didn't even try in the first place, like maybe it would have given it a better shot.
It probably would have. Yeah.
It's not like back in the day where we played a bad game and said, oh, let's play this instead. I feel like we might have played Destiny and gotten hooked a little and said, okay, let's see where we go from here. Because, like Warzone came out at the perfect time where everybody was stuck inside.
Everyone could not go out. Yeah.
But like, look at what we did immediately, where we got hooked and started looking up what's the best gun for this. What we were watching videos and stuff. I think we would have probably tried that at least with Destiny.
Yeah, it's just things like, I always would like to try it again. It's just, it's one of those things where it's kind of the point I raised earlier, where if you're not at the ground floor, like when the game kind of starts, a lot of these games do a really poor job of getting you up to speed because there's so many things they've introduced over time.
Yeah.
Whether it's mechanics, modes, battle passes, currency, that it's really hard to get into, because even if you want to, there's just so many things in your way that you have to kind of get through and learn. That's like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't want to play this anymore. Like, I just want a solid shooter with my buddies. That's all I really want,
I think in the back of my head, what's keeping me out now is just knowing that there's content that was locked, that was previous.
That's a good point, because I think that's the other side. Is if I knew that I was spending money on this and it could go away, then what's the point? But on the flip side, because Sony owns Bungie, they've been giving out basically every new edition of Destiny for free. I think even the most recent PS Plus batch had a Destiny game on there. It was one of the most recent expansions or something like that. So I'd be interested. Again, it's free to play, and I'd be interested to try it again. But it just feels like with you and I, we tried. I'm like, yeah, let's go play some other multiplayer game. Like
some other shooter.
Yeah, we tried it, and we'll see. But I don't know. We'll see what happens if we even want to give this one a shot.
It's bad if it chases us back into the arms of Halo Infinite.
That would be really hilarious. I mean, we might get our fix for that, because I feel like we do. At least I play with Matt a few matches. Like, we just kind of want to scratch that itch.
Yeah,
and then that's it. It's like, all right, well, I got my fix. That's it. I'm done. Yeah. All right, Ducey. Well, we went through a lot of games here, and I feel like we had I feel like this was a little bit of a painful episode, because we talked about games that are, fantastic.
Yeah.
And yet, for some reason, it just doesn't work for us.
It's funny how we made our lists separate, and then they were both like
there's some that mirrored.
There were some that were together, and some that wounded both of us.
Yeah, exactly. Cyberpunk. Yeah, but anyway, if any of our friends out there, if you have any games that you thought were great but didn't click for whatever reason, please reach out to us. You can email us at legiongamingpod@gmail.com. You can find us more notably on Instagram at Legion Gaming Podcast. And of course, Blue Sky, where everyone says there's like a bajillion users and no one talks to each other. We're at legiongamingpod.bsky.social. Ducey, anything else for our friends today who might be going off and play games they may not like?
Press start to try again.
I like that one. Thank you, everyone.